So can you as an adult read the Harry Potter series? The short answer is, of course, yes you can. But to give you the long answer, let me try to review the series. So many people around the world begin their reading journeys, especially as kids, with the Harry Potter series. And it's such a great place to start. For me personally though, I started reading the series from the end. I was introduced to the series through the movies first. Then I started reading the series from book 6 because I couldn't wait to see the movie to know what will happen. And then I was hooked. I realized that I have never read anything like this series before. I haven't read anything as immersive or descriptive as the series, and up until that point I haven't read any fantasy series. And even now when I read fantasy books, I still feel that there's something missing. Some people say that this series made them love reading and become readers, but that was not the case for me because I have always been a reader. However, with this series, I discovered the joy of being immersed in a book. I discovered how satisfying it is to finish the book and start asking for the next one immediately. I just wanted, like so many readers around the world, to study at Hogwarts and live in the wizarding world. And I did not get this feeling from any other series. So last year I decided to reread the series, but I wanted to try another format, and I chose the audiobooks narrated by Stephen Fry. And all I can say is, wow, what a performance. The narrator was so good. He has such a wide range of voices, and he uses a different voice for each character. I could distinguish each character with its voice alone, and I did not get confused. It's like listening to a book with a full cast of narrators. If you want to read Harry Potter, I really recommend the audiobooks because they were so good. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the books are way better than the movies in every aspect, except of course the character of Snape. He was amazing in the movies. And I watched most of the movies first, so a lot of the things were spoiled for me, and yet I really enjoyed reading this series. Now I'll try to talk about the books without spoilers, but seriously, if you haven't read this series by now, what are you waiting for? The series is consisted of 7 books. The first book is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This book is intended for children, so the language is middle grade, but of course you must read it in order to enjoy the rest of the series. And you have to read it because it's such a good book. In this book we meet Harry, who is an orphan child, and he's a wizard, but nobody told him about this, and nobody told him that there is magic in the world. And then he knows the truth, and all readers of the series wanted to be in his shoes. Some of us still do. And he is introduced to the School of Magic, Hogwarts, and his journey with magic begins. What I found special about this book is that it's a complete story beginning to end. You can really read this first book without continuing with the series and you will be fine, but you will do yourself a disservice. You see, normally the first book in a fantasy series is all about the world building, introducing a ton of characters, and you have to read the rest of the series to know what happens. But you can read this book without anything spoiling your enjoyment. Of course, in this book, the main villain of the series, who must not be named, is hinted at until his full introduction in the 4th book of the series. The 2nd and 3rd books in the series continue developing the relationship between the 3 protagonists, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and they introduced a lot of new characters, new adventures, and continue building the hype for the main villain with giant monsters, giant snakes, and very scary creatures in the 3rd book. And then when we get to the 4th book, the story becomes dark. In the books from 4 through 7, the real story starts. The real struggle between good and evil, the sacrifices, the high stakes, all happen in these 4 books. You see, in each book in the series, the main characters grow 1 year older, and they move to the next grade in school. The adventures become more dangerous, and the stakes become higher and higher. And this is perfectly reflected in the writing style. The first 2 to 3 books are middle grade, so the language is simpler, but it keeps progressing book after book with the age of the readers and the protagonists. So from book 4, the tone of the series changes dramatically because there's a lot at stake with the full introduction of the main villain. And it's in these 4 books that the careful planning of the series by the author shows. And what an author. J.K. Rowling can really tell a story. The story across 7 parts is meticulously planned, that a lot of the details that show up in later parts were already planned from the beginning, and they were hinted at in earlier books, but the readers did not notice them. And this, as a reader, blew my mind. The characters are well built with clear motivations and goals, and this especially shows with one character, who I will not say his name not to spoil the series, but his motivations are never revealed until the last book, and the only people that knew about his motivations were the author and the actor who played his role in the movies. Of course, the books get bigger and bigger, and the number of pages increases from the first book to the 7th book, and some people didn't like that and thought that the last few books were too long and parts of them were so boring because of the descriptive nature of the author's writing style. But for me personally, this descriptive writing style helped me be immersed in the story. And I was so engaged, especially with the audiobooks. I really enjoyed rereading the series as an adult, and I will most likely reread it again in the distant future. At the end, if you enjoyed my video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and watch my previous content. Thank you for watching and happy reading.